We are a bunch of wild and crazy Cleveland Browns fans, bring you all the latest in Browns news. Tune in now. Well, welcome to another edition of the Fanatical Elfz show. This is a special Sunday evening edition before the Brownies take on the Denver Broncos in a mile-high Monday night affair. Tune in tomorrow night. I'm Johnny Suchan, Johnny Cleveland, whatever you want to call me, and there is Sam, the man. Welcome, Sam. How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. It feels weird not watching the Browns on Sunday, but it's been so long. It's been 11 days now since the Browns played on Thursday against the Steelers.
I know, it feels like forever.
Beat them, by the way. Just gotta continue to bring that up. Make sure you rub it in Steelers fans' faces.
Yes, all those squealer fans. Well, I was just listening to we are part of the Fanatical Elfz Network, and the Steelers do have a good group over there. We really appreciate all their love and support. They were having their post-game show. I was just watching it just earlier as they did beat the Bungles today down in Cincinnati in a high-scoring AFC North affair. I think it was 44-38, and at the end of the game, they had to get a first down, and of course, they had Justin Fields in the game, and nobody for the Bengals. I don't know if you saw the last play, but basically no one.
I didn't.
Yeah, nobody guarded. No one was paying attention to him, and he just held on to the ball, faked it, and just bootlegged it over to the right side for an easy first down. So,
the whole concept of a two-man quarterback, one being a brute runner and one being a good thrower, is kind of interesting.
Right? You'd think, too, if it was the brute runner in the game that you would be, guarding against the run in a very key moment of the game. But, the Bungles are the Bungles. They're now 4-8. The Squealers are 9-3, I think now. So
that's a lot of wins. Now they're going to lose in the wild card round.
I said the other day on my Johnny Cleveland podcast, this is something similar, because where I have a lot of respect for the organization, Mike Tomlin, especially the coach. He's a 500 or more coach. I said it, and I'll say it again. They're not going to go anywhere. I know that the Fans First fellas were talking today, Jeff Hartman and group there, talking about Russell Wilson and their support for him and how he's a really savvy veteran and has won a Super Bowl. And I'm like, okay, that's true. He's won a Super Bowl. He's a veteran, but I'm not going to trust him taking that team very far. I don't know. What do you think about? I mean, we don't pay attention to Pittsburgh that much, but what do you think about their take on?
I think really what's going to happen is they're going to make it to the AFC wild card, and Russell Wilson's going to become Russell Wilson, and they're going to lose. So I don't see him. If they might make it to the divisional round, but again, you have to go through the Bills, you have to go through the Chiefs,
yes,
you have to go through the Lions if you want to win the Super Bowl, right? You have to go through.
Well, now there's a concept. The Lions. Now, what do you think about them? They're 11-1.
Yeah, I've said it. I hate saying it, but I just don't see anyone beating the Chiefs this year. It's just not going to happen. I keep telling myself that the Chiefs are going to win the entire thing, divisional, AFC Championship, and Super Bowl, by a total point margin of either 11 or 14.
Wow.
I wouldn't be shocked if they win 2 games by 3 or less points and then 1 game by a touchdown. They're going to win the Super Bowl, but they're going to win it in the worst, boringest, terriblest way.
Until somebody proves them wrong. I mean, they've won 2 in a row now, and they're winning unconventionally, or they're not winning very convincingly. So, but they're winning, and it's Patrick Mahomes, and it's Travis Kelce, and it's Taylor Swift. And, when you got the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift connection, I mean, it's what America wants.
Yeah, but they should have lost to the Raiders. I mean, come on, let's be honest here. That should have been a loss. The Broncos should have beat them, but whatever. I mean, the Panthers should have beat them. They should have 6 losses, but they don't, and they're going to win everything, and it's not going to be fun, but it's going to happen.
Well, and Sam, I think I've told this story many times not many times, but I lived in Kansas for 25 years, and I actually had season tickets to the Chiefs games when I lived out there so long, they were giving them away practically to educators because they could never sell tickets in Arrowhead back when I was there in the 90s and early 2000s because the team was so bad. But Patrick Mahomes has changed everything in that organization. Andy
You
Reid.
get a top 3 quarterback of all time, and yeah, things will probably change.
Yeah. Well, we're not the Chiefs. To think about it, you think about Brown's history going back to Baker Mayfield and Hollywood Higgins, almost getting that touchdown and getting blindsided hit in the helmet illegally by the Chiefs in that playoff game back in 2020.
I believe so.
Yeah. What now?
I think so. I get the years mixed
but
up,
I mean,
yeah,
you think about that. I mean, that was a really golden opportunity for the Browns to take it to the next level with Baker at the time, Nick Chubb, all of that. It didn't happen. And now look where we're at. So we have a matchup tomorrow night. By the way, I do want to say, yes, I am wearing purple. So anybody who's a Browns fan, this is Hocking Hills, which is a state park. It's a golf course actually too down there. So yes, it is purple, but I'm not rooting for the Ratbirds. So just want everybody to know that. So the Browns played up in Denver. They're going up mile high in Denver. Monday Night Football. The Browns played Denver a year ago. They had Dorian Thompson-Robinson in its quarterback. He got injured. Denver kind of won. They weren't very good. Now this year they've brought in Bo Nix. What are your thoughts on Denver right now and Bo Nix?
Well, I think right now Denver is Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton, I believe right now is really good. That pairing matchup has been really good. I think that's a threat you need to worry about. Their defense has been really good, but Bo Nix specifically has been a really good quarterback. I think if not Justin Fields, who's the quarterback for Washington? The rookie. Jaden Daniels. If Jaden Daniels didn't do so well at the beginning of the season, I think Bo Nix would win Rookie of the Year. I still wouldn't be shocked if Bo Nix won Rookie of the Year. If Jaden Daniels had a good game this week, I think it was like 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was really good, but I think Bo Nix is going to be second place for Rookie of the Year. Yeah. And that obviously says something about how good he's been. So he's definitely a threat. And I think with how good he's been with Cortland Sutton, it's going to be an even bigger threat that he's going to be able to just go to him over and over. He has a good defense behind him. He's got a good, an okay offensive line and some good wide receivers. That it's definitely going to be a tough matchup for the Browns defense.
What's their run game like? Do you know much about the Denver run game?
They had all right.
Williams?
I have their running back on fantasy. He's been okay. It's an okay running game. It's not like exceptional. It's not like terrible. It's middle of the pack. It'll get you 20 yards, not 20 yards, like 80 yards a game, stuff like that.
Okay. So, but Bo Nix, I look at him and, a lot of people weren't sure about him when they drafted him. The fact that he had 5 years of college experience, 3 years as a starter at Auburn, 2 years at Oregon. I think that gives him kind of a where he's at now, because I think he does have a wealth of experience that he's leaning on. It does say something about kids that go to college and they actually stay there. So we'll see what happens. I think, I'm a little concerned about the Browns defensive secondary and how they're going to stack up against this. And also Bo Nix, maybe you touched on this already, but he's a pretty good runner. My son Alec and I were looking at some stats for Bo.
Yeah, he's got some good mobility. He's not like a Josh Allen type of player or a like a RG3 kind of guy, but he can make some plays. He can get 15 yards down the field. He can knock over a guy or two. He's not strong, like huge like Josh Allen, but he'll definitely get some yards if you let him.
What do you think? I was listening to the guys in Pittsburgh after their game against the Bungles here, and they were talking about like X factors. When we're talking about X factors, players that could make a difference, let's say for the Browns and the Brown side of the ball, offensively or defensively, who do you think would be a player or two that could be really important to this game tomorrow night, Monday night?
It's going to be Miles Garrett, in my opinion, because Miles
Mhm.
Garrett right now, this is the best. I don't know the Broncos game log. I could
Yeah,
probably check it really quickly.
sure.
But like they've played Pittsburgh, so they played TJ Watt. They played someone like the Ravens and the Chiefs. But I think right now, uh, Miles Garrett is the best defensive player that Bo Nix has had to go up against, and I think that's
Yeah,
going to if Miles Garrett can sack him early, or can
yeah,
strip fumble him, or can hit him hard on a scramble, or do something like that. I think Miles Garrett will have the opportunity
yeah,
to get into Bo Nix's head and make him fearful of trying to run that side, which
yeah.
might cause some bad plays. But I think on terms of defense, it's going to be Miles Garrett. And I think offensively, it's going to have to either become Nick Chubb or it's going to be Jameis Winston because they have a really good defense. They're good against the run, they're good against the pass. But if
Mhm.
you can perfectly balance both of those using your Nick Chubb and your Jameis Winston, who has some good potential, if he can
Mhm.
usually, it's hard to get him to do good, but if he
Yeah.
can do good, he'll be good. And I think if you can do that, you might have a chance to beat around the Denver defense.
Okay. Sam, let's pause for a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. We're going to talk more about Nick Chubb and Jameis Winston after the break. This is the Fanatical Elves Show. Hey, thanks for tuning back in to our Fanatical Elves Show. We are previewing the Browns versus Broncos Mile High battle tomorrow night under the spotlight. We were just talking about Jameis Winston, Nick Chubb, and how they could be key factors in the Browns if they are going to win this game tomorrow night. The Broncos are coming in pretty successfully. I was looking at the schedule before we start diving in a little bit more, but I did notice that the Steelers did go out to Denver and beat the Broncos 19-6 earlier in September. That was like the third game of the that was the first game of the season, or maybe the second game. That was the second game of the season. Um, the Broncos beat the Raiders, who we lost to, and
They got smacked around by the Ravens.
they did. Yes, they did 41-10. That was a game where the Broncos traveled to Baltimore. They got beat 16-14, or they lost to the Chiefs, who we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
16-14. They beat up on the Falcons. Boy, the Falcons are kind of falling flat with Kirk Cousins threw 4 more interceptions today. So the Broncos, what's their record right now? 7-5?
I think it's 7-5, yeah.
They've been really up and down. I mean, they lost a few games at the beginning of the year. They started out 0-2. So the Broncos came back and they went out to Tampa to get their first win against Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers at the start of the season. And then they rolled. They got another win against the Jets. Then they beat the Raiders. So that was their third win. Then they lost the Chargers, beat the Saints. We played the Saints. The Saints crushed us. They crushed the Saints 33-10. But I think that was before,
was bad Saints though. The Saints for the first 3 weeks were crazy good.
Right.
So I'd say that past about week 4, the Saints kind of are a bad team.
Yeah.
Week 1 through 3, they were amazing, but week 4 through now, they're just kind of suck. But the thing with the Broncos, if you look at their scores, they've only lost like 2 games that less than. Let me rephrase. They've only lost 2 games that was more than 7 points. So if you look through all their scores, all of their losses are within 7 or less points. Except for 2. So they have very close games. The Chiefs game should have won that. Let's be honest here. They did. Their offensive line definitely crumbled. I mean, if you watch that replay, it was crazy how bad they fell apart. But like, that's another win, right? There are a few other games where they could have won. They just had a bunch of things. And the first few games, Bo Nix wasn't at his peak yet. He was just starting to get used to it. Now he's in that prime part of his season here. And I think you got to take the Broncos as what week is this? 13, I think. Or you got to take them as week 13 Broncos, not week 8 or week 1 Broncos. They're a new team. They seem to be a new team than they were. Well,
Sean Payton, their coach too, is a savvy veteran, cocky son of a gun, but he knows how to bring teams into winning ways usually. And now he's been able to turn that around. They got rid of Russell Wilson, who we were just speaking of, who's now in Pittsburgh, and the Pittsburgh media is all happy about Russell Wilson. But anyway, now they have Sean Payton. and leading the way, and Bo Nix following his. It'll be interesting tomorrow night. I think I agree with you. I think that Myles Garrett has to play a big role in this defensively, and if he can get that early strip or a fumble or some sort of interception by the Browns defense, that'll really motivate the team. On the offensive side of the ball, Nick Chubb, I wrote about him earlier in the week. He had about 20 carries, about 60 yards rushing the last game, 2 touchdowns in that snowstorm. He's 542 yards away from surpassing Leroy Kelly, who's number 2 on the all-time list for Browns players. But interestingly, more to me is Chubb is still like number 74 on the all-time list of NFL running backs of all time, which seems really far down, but there's a cluster of tons of players in between him and someone like Derrick Henry, who's at number 24 overall with like 10,007 or 800 yards. Nick Chubb's at 6,733 yards. But, a player like Derrick Henry and Ezekiel Elliott have almost 800 or 900 more carries in their career than Nick Chubb. And now, obviously, Nick Chubb missed a lot of time. I'm not expecting Nick Chubb to come back with a ton of, great games, but I am interested to see with 6 games to go. Do you think it's a factor in his? I'm guessing probably not. That Nick Chubb's not even thinking about what I mentioned about the 542 yard difference between him and Leroy Kelly. Where do you see Nick Chubb in the rest of the season?
Well, right now, I said I think I predicted around 20 carries. I think I actually predicted around 15 to 20 carries ish. I think that's a good number for what he'll get the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. I think you can realistically expect somewhere between 60 and 80 yards per game, then throw in whatever carries. I think if there's 7 more games left,
there's 6 more games.
Then if he can get 70 yards, 7 times 6 is like 420, I believe.
Sure.
So that'll give him
he'll come close.
Yeah, it'll get it 420 yards over the rest of the season, especially missing half of it, is pretty good. I think around 60 to 80 yards per game and around 15 to 20 carries per game is pretty much what he'll get for the rest of the season.
Do you see him coming back next year? He's going to be a free agent. I mean, I want him back. Browns fans, I mean, I believe he's the heart and soul of this Browns team. But do you think, I mean, ultimately you're detached a little bit more from Nick Chubb. I mean, where do you see that? Because he is a free agent.
Well, on the business side of it, it is a poor investment to invest back in Nick Chubb, specifically because this is his second huge knee injury that he's had. He is aging. And the market right now is definitely declining for running backs. But I think people are realizing now that having a good running back is still extremely important to the success of your team. Even if you have a Patrick Mahomes, you give Patrick Mahomes a poor offensive line and a poor running back, and he's not going to be as good as he is.
Right.
Because he is great. He's an amazing quarterback, but without a way to set up the run and force people to even
he's got Kareem Hunt now there.
Yeah. But like, if you don't have a running back that people perceive as a threat, they're not going to fill the box and they're not going to try and protect against the run, meaning your passing game will be weaker because all of the players are going to be like, oh, they don't have a good running back. Why the heck would they run? Let's just stop the pass. And you kind of look at the Cowboys as a good example.
Yeah.
For a little while there, they have an okay running back now, but you look at the Cowboys for a few weeks there and they were like, dude, they've got as old Ezekiel Elliott and then some random guy who's like 5'4" coming out of the backfield. We don't have to worry about them running the ball on us. So let's just protect against the pass. And then you had a bunch of problems. And so I think on the business side of things, he's aging. He's super injury prone, and his knee, who knows how long that knee is going to last. It might just fall apart next year because of just how torn up it's been. But on the terms of
that's terrible. But
on a fan basis, he is an amazing heart and soul. He's a face of the franchise. If you look at pictures, you look up Cleveland Browns and you'll see Nick Chubb within the first 20 pictures.
Sure.
And it's just
interesting.
On business wise, it's a poor investment, but in terms of actual playability and everything else, it probably is a good idea to bring him back for 1 or 2 more years.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping that that's where the Browns see this as an organization. I believe they do, and I think it's going to have to be a very friendly deal. And I think that Nick Chubb would be willing to do that because I do feel like he's a team player, and I think that he's committed to the Browns over all these seasons. I think this is what year 7, so he'll be going into year 8. Myles Garrett could be going into year 9 as a Cleveland Brown. So it's interesting time.
I will say though, if all the NFL teams offered Nick Chubb the exact same amount of money, let's just say 2 years for 12 million, he's taking the Browns 10 out of 10 times.
But what
I
if some
think
team like this? What if another team like the Chiefs come after him?
I think the only limiting factor is if the Browns match any offer, Nick Chubb's coming back to the Browns guaranteed. But I think money is going to be the problem. If the Browns are like, you're hurt, you're older, we're going to give you 2 years, 13 million. And then Chiefs walk up and they're like, hey, 3 years, $28 million. He's going to the Chiefs, I think. But if the Browns are able to bring up a competitive counter offer, I think he'll be willing
That's
to
why
lose
I want to
4 or
see
5
him.
million.
That's what I'm looking at these last 6 games, Sam, because that's what I want. I want to see. I want, what he can do, and not push it, but I want to see where he's at. Because a lot of people, have been bashing him a little bit before last week's game, saying, he's past due and everything. And I hear that take, and I hear what you were saying, because I agree with you as from a financial side and a business side, it's probably not the best move for the Browns. But so do you think Kevin Stefanski is safe? Let's finish up with that. I know we're gonna have more. We'll have a preview tomorrow, but you see Stefanski is safe.
He's not going anywhere this year, but next year, if we aren't able to do good next year, he's gone.
If we don't do good next year,
next year, if we lose the first 4 games, if we go 1-4 in the first 5 games next year, he's out the door immediately. I don't see him if he can't he gets it past this year because of last year, but next year all bets are off. He has a refreshed team. Can't blame anything on injuries again. Can't blame it on Watson because I don't see Watson playing anymore. I just say if he can't replicate a good season next year, he's gone.
Well, this whole idea of this competition and you're seeing all these things in the Cleveland media this week about, bringing Watson back and giving him competition. I mean, I wrote about Winston coming back, and he really is the true team leader from a quarterback's point of view. And they have got to invest some time in, and I hope that they'll bring him back. I think he's motivated to play hard for this Browns team. I think he, just watching him in some of these different interviews before and after games and during the week, I don't know. I'd like to see him have some success here because I think the Browns organization really screwed up with Joe Flacco and letting him walk in this offseason. But anyway, what was I going to ask you? One other thing I was going to get at, but I can't think of it for the life of me. So the Browns tomorrow night, they play Monday night. I hope the spotlight isn't too big for them, but I thought they handled what they did. I mean, winning that game against the Pittsburgh a week and a half ago in the snow was epic. Will be one of those games that will go down historically, I think, when we look back at games. And I know this season probably won't amount to much because they have their poor record, but I know for myself and many Browns fans, they'll recall that Pittsburgh game, kind of like when the Browns beat the Buffalo Bills in a snowstorm and Phil Dawson had like 5 field goals and it was a blinding blizzard. We all oftentimes talk about that game.
I think, I will quickly before we wrap up here. I think the Browns draft right now is looking interesting because we have our own first round pick now. We aren't winning a whole lot of games, so our first round pick is going to be good. Yeah, Cam Ward right now, the quarterback out of Miami. I've heard a lot of people say it's probably the best quarterback in the class in terms of actual like true talent. I think if the Browns, he's going to go late first round, I'd say. If the Browns get a top 5 pick or a top 7 pick, I think the Browns would be totally open to the idea, of trading down to 18 and then picking up Cam Ward and just running with a random rookie and seeing if he can do something.
Yeah.
Because you can get a lot of value with the top 7 pick. You pick up a nice wide receiver, offensive lineman, defensive player. Yeah. You move back to 18, maybe pick up a mid round.
I would agree with that too. If they did that, then yes, I think Winston, obviously a veteran like that, would have to move on because he wouldn't want to be the backup again to a rookie.
Honestly, I feel like if we picked up a rookie quarterback in this specific draft class, he's not starting next year. I think Winston, if we keep Winston next year, he will continue to play one more year. If Winston sucks
With the Browns,
next
you
year,
still think so? He'd stay, you think, if they drafted
I
him?
think if we draft a rookie and Winston doesn't, suck and he's just a terrible quarterback next year, I think if we draft a rookie, the rookie will sit on the bench because it's starting to
Okay.
look more and more like it's actually a better idea to sit your rookie for a year, sit him behind. And Jameis Winston is a very good mentor type of player who
He
can
sat
sit
behind a
there.
lot of greats too over the. I mean,
Yeah,
he
he can sit
started,
there,
but he's also sat behind a lot. Yeah,
he can win you 8 or 9 games if he
Yep.
has to, and he's a good mentor. And I think that would be a good idea if we pick up a rookie. Now, if we get one next year where it's like a top 5 rookie player, he won't. He would if it was a different quarterback class, Winston would go behind on the bench. But I think if we pick up a class this year, just simply because the quarterback class is kind of weak, Winston will start next year if we keep him, and the rookie will stay on the bench and just mentor for a year.
So for a top 10 pick next year, we can talk about this more in another show, but would the Browns be, I think they would be more invested in trying to go offensive or defensive line.
I think we definitely would be looking at it, but I think with how beat up our quarterback room is and how just up in the air it is, I think the Browns would probably have a better shot of just slinging a wild pitch out there, just seeing if it lands in the glove and hoping that you can get some sort of hit with Cam Ward or Quinn Ewers, even Shadur Sanders. Maybe I don't like either of those. I think they're okay, but I think they'll probably just trade down, but maybe they won't. I don't know.
Yeah.
And you never know. These quarterbacks everyone might be like, and they might fall to the mid-second round and you can pick them up in the second round. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Well, Sam, good stuff tonight. Guys, really appreciate everybody tuning in here to the Fanatical Elfz show as we're previewing this big game tomorrow night between the Browns and the Broncos out there in Denver. We will have a pregame show. I don't know if Sam will be there. Sam, you're invited if we do a pregame show when we do tomorrow night. Other than that, folks, please tune into us. Follow us on Apple, on Spotify. If you download us on your phone, then you'll never miss an episode. Sam just had his latest Browns breakdown show that just popped on Apple. So if you were downloaded Apple, you'll see it would say, showed Sam's show. You'll see mine, the Johnny Cleveland show, and a variety of other shows. So please tune into us. We're fans just like you, and we appreciate that. And a shout out to Hemisphere Coffee Roasters. We've got a link on the X page. Click on that, and you get 20%, or we get 15 or 20% back on any purchase that you make. So that really helps our podcasting crew. So thanks again, Sam. Thanks again. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too.
Go Browns. Take care, everybody.
Here
we go, Brownies. Here we go. Maybe if I can find the music. See ya.